Hello, Rebels. Welcome back into the studio. Today we have an awesome guest, Eric Hamilton. Eric's gonna help lay the framework a little bit and teach us all how to kick the tires around sales. He's a new friend of mine, but I can already tell that he's going to teach me a lot. And when we met, I said, hey, I really think that the Rebels could learn a lot with you and from you. Are you interested in coming on to the show? And anyway, he humbled me and said, yeah, sure, I'll come on, Dana. And anyway, so he's here. Hey, Eric, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. And I am happy to be joining the Rebels of SaaS. Hopefully I become an official Rebels of SaaS. That might be a tagline that every time you come on, you are officially a rebel. So hopefully I make
Love it. I love it.
And
So
real quick, I do want to give you some props. So I must say how I found your podcast. I went to the top 81 sales SaaS podcasts. Your podcast was one of those. I actually narrowed it down to 25 and I listened to the 25 and I narrowed it down to 10. The final 10, those are the ones that I began to engage with, and you were one of those 10. So just so you know, there is a list out there that you were one of the top 81s, and I narrowed that sucker down to 20 or 25.
well, Eric, thank you so much. And it's interesting because I have friends that are like, hey, the podcast is in this list, the podcast is that. And it's still so weird to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you and I have had this conversation. The podcast was just a thing that I did to keep from going crazy last year post layoff, like we all do in tech, right?
Yep.
And anyway, and people are excited and listening and stuff. So I'm really excited. We've had some great guests like you on the show that have, really been saying some things that are exciting and different. And I like that about what we're building at Rebels. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So I know you're in Dallas because we were just talking about how much we don't love the airport. But like when you're not traveling, working, all those things, give us a 30-second overview of you professionally. I know you're an author.
Yes.
You've got some really awesome frameworks that you live by in terms of sales. I know part of that is around keeping it simple and doing those simple things really well.
Yes.
But share with us a little bit all things Eric. Professionally. Let's rap about that a minute.
Absolutely. So professionally is twofold. So I have real estate as my true passion. So I've been in real estate for, I'm going to date myself. So now 23 years. I purchased my first duplex in 2001. So that's one thing I talk to everyone in sales that I work with, especially the younger ones that are coming up, is we make a lot of money in sales. If you're good at sales, you're going to make a lot of money. And you can't get stuck on buying bigger things because I get more money. Because what happens is as you buy, you make more, you spend more. And it's important to do something to diversify that income so that you can keep the money, right? And so I got into real estate back in 2001. So my wife actually runs the real estate side. We got a pretty extensive portfolio back in the Midwest. Professionally, outside of that comes to the tech side. That's where I get into SaaS. And I spent 25 years in the technology industry. And I just enjoy how it continues to develop. When I originally started in this world of tech, I guess you could say, first thing I sold was pagers. Okay, I'm dating myself. I was selling.
I remember pagers, Eric.
Yes, like pagers. Like who sells pagers? Like most people, some of your viewers may not even know what that is. Okay, it's this little thing before cell phones. You would have to go to this thing called a payphone. And you would dial a number. So anyway, that's how I started. So watching the evolution of technology has been very exciting.
It's interesting. It's interesting to hear you talk about payphones. So a lot of people don't know, and I knew I liked you for a million reasons, but this is even one more. So my background actually comes from one of the things that I did was wireless expense management. And then one of my very first big girl gigs was leading a team for CenturyLink. So we actually still had payphones when I was at CenturyLink. So that dates me a little bit, but I can say, and you had to there was collections from going and getting the coins and all the things. It is really cool when you think about the difference and where technology is going, and then where it's starting to get all this AI stuff and business rule engine,
Yes.
evolution and
Yes.
all that stuff. But what's interesting, and I think one of the things that makes you really great at sales is that, even with all of that, you still go back to do the basics well.
Yes. Yes.
And that's a very, that's a sexy concept, and people forget that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's go after medic, let's do this, let's do that. And I think, oh, that's great, right? Yes, we need to have theoretical paradigms, all that cool stuff, but are we doing the basic stuff?
Yep.
But anyway, so what do you do when you're not this guy, right? When you're not real estating, which, by the way, it's interesting. You're the second person that I know. My very best friend is also into real estate.
Yes.
Not to the extent that you and your wife are by any means, but it's interesting to have people that are great at tech who also love to go and do real estate. I always think that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And part of it is, I didn't learn this until later on, but 82% of billionaires have a real estate portfolio. And so if you want to do what people are doing that are doing things that you want to do, you probably want to do things that they're doing. And again, it's just simple concepts. I'm a simple guy. I'm not reinventing the wheel. If I see people going in a direction that I want to go, if I see a CEO or CRO, I want to talk to them and understand, how did you get there? Right? What did you do? So anyways, let me get back to your question. Question on what do I do outside of work? So I am a family man. So I've been married to my wife, Jackie, for 17 years, 18 in July. So long time. And we have 3 children. And little Eric is the last one. He's 14, so he's still in school. And when he graduates in 2028, I can say this, I'm going to retire from corporate America once he graduates. So that's my exit out of the business in 2028. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and you're in sales, so you're leading, growing people, and everything strategically is around that.
Yeah.
So I also think it's cool that you're a family man, but that, Jackie and you have, that she runs the real estate side of things and you guys partner. I think that's so huge for marriages, right? To have that partnership. Yeah. So I admire that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think it's important. One of the things, so I got vision boards behind me that we talk about, but one of them states on mine, it says, you can't do this alone, or you can't do it alone. And it's something for me to continue to think, I have to work with other people. I have to be open, right? I can't try to do everything on my own. And that's one of the things that marriage is very important, that you're not trying to do everything on your own, as well as sales leadership. You can't do everything on your own. There are so many times where I want to say, you know what, just let me send the email. Let me do this. Let me call the customer. No, because you're not going to learn if I just go do everything. And sometimes I got to let go. I got to talk about it. I got to teach about it. I got to coach it. And then, all right, let's go execute and let's come back and let's talk.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I can't figure out, it's interesting why that's so hard, because like you say, but it is hard. And I think it's hard because of trust. Yep. With sales, I think everyone in sales is motivated by, money. Yep. And making something great. And that's okay, and it's that drive of being better than, and helping customers of all facets be better than, that really drives that, I think, in salespeople.
Yes.
And so what's really cool is, when, you have to sort of divorce yourself a little bit from that drive and do that trust thing. That trust thing is hard.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because that you're not going to, you set your own standard. You're not going to let yourself down, right? Most of the time. And so people tend to want to I just want to go do it, right? I'm not going to just myself. So Yeah, that's really challenging. But I would say, because you brought up a point of motivation and drive and money being one of the reasons. And I do think a tremendous amount of sales professionals are driven by money. That's a big piece of what we do, right? But from a leadership perspective, it's important to get to understand what actually motivates that individual. Because for some people,
Mm.
recognition even more than money. So if I offered a trip somewhere as a contest compared to having your name being presented in front of the organization, I would tell you that there would be several sales professionals that would rather have their name seen number one on the stack rankings in front of all of their peers, the recognition behind it, and some of that drives it. But I always say a lot of people talk about being successful, especially in sales. But are the actions that you're taking on a daily basis, is that conducive to leading you to success? So
Mm.
I want to be the best. I want to be the best salesperson ever, but I don't want to prospect. Well, do you really want it? I don't feel like making calls today, or I don't feel like sending emails. Wait, you want to golf 3 days a week? Wait, but you. So they got to line up. You want to be the best, or do you want to have fun, or do you not want to work? So it's important to focus in on those fundamentals as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's I'm sorry, my mind is blown right now. The whole prospect, the one, it's just so true.
Yeah.
I'm interested. We talk a lot on the show about, positive rebellion
Yes.
and what we think that is. I'm curious what being a rebel is to you and how you're a rebel. I can name several ways already just from knowing you as a human that I think you are, but like as you lead, like what's rebellion to you in
Yeah.
SaaS?
Yeah. So I think it's important to, there's a way that seems right to people, right? And sometimes it's important to challenge status quo. So
Mm-hmm.
just because we've always done something a certain way, that doesn't mean we have to continue to do something that same way. So what I like to do in challenging status quo is, I'll give you an example. When I came to not just this organization, several organizations that I've come to, this one in particular, I was brought by one of the senior leaders, and we had a phenomenal product. We had phenomenal engineers and all this good stuff. We had this phenomenal technology, and the go-to-market strategy I thought was an area that we can improve upon. So we sat down with the team and we developed a strategy, which is kind of some of this blueprint. And just
Mm-hmm.
because we're doing something a certain way, I said, let's see if we can improve. Let's be rebels. Like, let's create something amongst ourselves and let's do it. And that's led to 70 to 72% close ratio if we follow the process. So
Yeah.
qualified deals, it's about 72% as long as we follow the process. If we deviate from the process, then those numbers begin.
Yeah. That's amazing, especially in this economy, from a macro standpoint. It really just shows, what getting back to basics in sales can really do.
Yeah.
And how that that really is a rebellious concept,
Yeah.
but it's one that I see in the way that you strategically align teams, and I
Sure.
think it's awesome. So if I can, I would love to kind of double click and learn more, right, about keep it simple.
Yeah.
I know you have, you got a book coming. I want to hear, all about your book and give us a little bit of, if I can ask for a teaser, I'm
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So from a fundamental standpoint, I truly think it's important that we control the things that we can. Here's the best example I can think of. You can say, I want to be the best salesperson that any prospect or customer engages with. But how do you gauge that? Right? Is it your attainment? Is it how many that respect and love you? Like, it's kind of out of your control. What we can control is, I can be the most prepared sales professional any prospect will engage with. And that's what I focus in on, is preparation. Starting mentally being prepared. I coach a lot. So I coach my son. He's 14. I coach his flag football and some basketball. And there are some times where the kids will jump out of the car right into a game. And I'm like, wait, the game started. You didn't stretch. Like, you're not mentally there yet, right? But it's like, you're not going to be effective. So I need to pull you aside. I need you to stretch, even though the game is going on. I would love to have you in the game. So mentally, we have to come into it ready for the day. How are you starting out
Mm.
that day? Are we hitting the alarm clock 5, 6 times before we even get to work? We're not even talking about the job yet, but how are we preparing for the day? And I think it's important to be intentional with the small things about how we start out those days. So I'll pause there for a second, but I think, even before we get to the job, it's important to do the small things, even as you start that day out.
Yeah. Like, wow. When you said stretch before you get in the game, like you saw my facial expression, because that makes or breaks, it can win a deal and it can lose a deal.
Yes.
And then talk and go to market, right? From a customer success lens, right? It's interesting because from a business review seat, you walk into business reviews all the time or conversations with C-level people, and there's
Mhm.
always a little bit of a gut check, right? A little bit of a nervousness and anxiety, whatever we want to call that thing in the pit of our stomach.
Yes.
But if you just take a minute and stretch, like
Yes.
you're saying,
Yeah.
and do the little things. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep talking. I'm learning. We're
So
learning.
now I got to click on that preparation and as you step into a meeting. So I watched this TED talk, and I can't remember her name right now. It's going to kill me. It's in the book. I can't even think of her name right now. But anyway, the purpose of her TED talk was about the importance of posture and posing. So making yourself appear large when you walk into a room in preparation for a meeting, 2 minutes before the meeting, look in the mirror in a power pose. As the example, she gave the example of, for women, this the Wonder Woman pose, right? Standing in the mirror, looking big with your hands on your hips, like seeing yourself, envisioning yourself as powerful. For men, the recommendation was we stand with our hands on the desk and look at yourself in a power position. And it mentally sets you up. And it's a cortisone, testosterone difference that changes when you walk into a room after just something that simple. Just that simple. Just seeing yourself in a position of power and then walking into the room for that CEO meeting or CRO meeting or quarterly business review or prospect like that, that sets your mind in the right path. So when you talk about that, that makes me think the first thing is, and that's in the book as well, is the power pose. Take some time and envision yourself where you want to be. See yourself as that winner.
That's a rebellious power. That's actually very interesting conceptually because, as you know very well, a lot of women are coached not to do that. Okay, now we're listening.
Yes. So highly recommend that. That's a fundamental building block that I talk about. I teach, even coach with the individuals on my team. So I think those things are important. But just kind of getting back to the building blocks, we talked about how you starting out that morning, and so then that kind of leads you how you start your morning out. That leads you into the day. So as you prepare for that day, the last thing I want to see is, like, you've been in sales for a while. I've been in sales for a while. I talk to team. I can wing a meeting. I can. I can wing a meeting, and it's probably going to go okay, right? Dave Chappelle says, Dave Chappelle, one of the comedians, he's a really great storyteller, and one of the things
Yes, he is.
he's a phenomenal storyteller.
He's hilarious. Besides Sinbad, I mean, he's one of my favorite comedians
Yeah.
of all time.
Yes.
I love Dave Chappelle. Yes.
Classic. He's classic. I'm Eddie Murphy guy, and I know we're a little off topic, but Eddie Murphy, because I go back a little bit, like, he was the original rock star in my eyes for a comedian. But Chappelle, I agree, he's classic.
Do you remember? I have to talk about Eddie Murphy and that vampire movie he was in. Do you remember that movie? Oh my gosh! I'm
Vampire.
like,
Yeah. Yes.
I still want to get into a bottle of wine and watch that about like once a month. I don't even care. I'm like almost 40 years old and I just want to hang out with Eddie in his vampiric awesomeness. Okay. Sorry, Eric. I'm listening.
That's okay. All right. So we were talking about, how did we get to Eddie Murphy? Oh, Dave Chappelle. Oh, okay. So preparation. So winging it, right? I could wing it, and I'm sure it would be fine. However, is that the best version of me that they're going to get? To just jump on a call without preparation, is that the best version of me? And will I get the most response from our prospect? So the way I look at, especially, I'm a hunter, right? So our team, we hunt. Like, I enjoy the thrill of the hunt.
Mm.
What's important is when we sit down, the sales professional that's able to ask the best questions to extract information from that prospect to make them feel comfortable with giving information, those are typically the ones that do really well. Think of it like we're almost like shrinks. When we sit down on a prospect, even if they've called in, our job is to extract more than just what's at the surface. I'm coming to you saying, "Hey, I want to buy tires." Okay, that's great. I got a whole warehouse full of tires. Well, so what do you have now? And what brought you in here? Well, help me understand why. Now all of a sudden you narrowed it down to these are two options for you. But basically what you said, here's my recommendation. But it's how are we asking those questions? And to ask those questions, are we prepared? Are we doing the research? Whatever your product is, are you researching in advance the company? Are you looking at the 10K reports? Are you looking at the president's statements? Are you doing those things to help you be prepared, to be the best prepared version of yourself, to be the most prepared sales professional that they're going to engage with?
So in tech, we need to know the product that we sell. Salespeople need to know what they're selling.
Yes.
Wow, that's also, Eric, you're knocking us out over here. Okay. So we got to stretch. We got to be prepared. We got to do our power pose.
Yep.
What else?
Now, before we even get to the game time, before we get to game time, which is the meeting, before we get there, it's important to assemble the team. You got to assemble the team, and not just anybody. It's your A team. Whether you're doing a demonstration, it's negotiation time, whatever it is, you have to assemble the team. So assembling the team is not simply just grabbing a whole bunch of resources and say, jump on this call with me. I actually am very frustrated when a rep gets me last minute to say, hey, can you jump on this call? Again, going back to my previous, can I jump on a call and be okay? Sure. However, if I'm prepared and I know what's happening and I got some time to research, it's a better version of myself that's going to help you. So I talk about the importance of number one, you set up a pre-meeting. The pre-meeting should include everybody that you want inside of this meeting. You brief them on everything. I actually go a step further is in the calendar invite, have the LinkedIn profile of the people we're meeting with. So that when we have our internal discussion, I can literally just click on that and see, okay, I'm meeting with Dan today. Okay, great. I can look at the profile. I can look at the customer, the work history. I can look at what they're affiliated with, where they graduated from, right? We're prepared. Then we also have to go in, what's the purpose? Like, what are we trying to do in this meeting? Like, what's the goal? And the goal isn't just simply to get the next meeting. That burns me up, Dan, when I hear the goal is just to get the next meeting. Why? What is the objective of this? And then a last thing I'll say about preparation and getting the team ready is after everybody agrees on what the game plan is, just make sure you send the agenda out to the prospect in advance. Whatever it is, just send it out because you're confirming number one that they're going to be there, and you're saying, "Hey, here's the agenda for tomorrow. Let me know if there's anything you want to add." Right? Again, all this is preparation. This isn't a skill yet. We didn't talk about any skill so far. The pose, the power pose, the preparation. That's not skill. That's just will. Right? That's just doing these things. So that's preparation.
I'm interested why, having the LinkedIn profiles, that needs to be in every customer journey.
Yeah. Yes.
From sales to post
Yes.
sales handoff. That needs
Yes.
to be in that.
Yes.
Whatever the mechanism is and however you build it, like however that's operationalized, that should be there. Like, and I'm curious now, like, why it's not based on like how you positioned this.
Yes.
So anyway, I love
Right.
that. Among everything you're saying, a huge fan of that because that also helps the people that are implementing whatever you're selling.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, helps them implement better.
Yes.
It helps the CS team, quantify, showcase, and have consultative value discussions all along the post sales process.
Yes.
And then you're selling more in the sales cycle.
Yes.
So how can it, I think it's great. And it's a little tweak, right? That can have huge, huge payoff. Okay. So we've prepped and are we at meeting time?
Now it's game time.
Game time. Okay, game time.
After you have your team assembled, after everyone's prepared, you're stepping in. Like imagine the movies where you walk in slow motion. they'll slow it down and the wind's blowing and you got your 3 or 4 people walking together. Like that's how you step into the call. That's how you step into the meeting. Except we're doing Zooms now, right? So you can't really walk and have the wind blowing. But you step in, and so there's a couple of pieces that are very important. I think as you set out that meeting, the one thing that, especially in the Zoom world, if I have 45 minutes with you, and once we get through some basic, here's the, we got to talk about the agenda. What's the purpose for today as we kick this meeting off and all that good stuff. If they have 10 people on their side, we've got 10 people on our side, or 5 people, or 2 people on our side. I don't want, think about this. Is this the best use of time to have everybody introduce themselves, their role and responsibilities? Because here's how it goes. Hi, I'm Eric Hamilton. I'm on sales. Jim, you want to go next? Yeah. Hey, Jim. Yeah. So I'm okay. Hey, Betty. I think you're up next. No, you've wasted 10 minutes.
20 minutes. 10
No,
or 20 minutes.
yes.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, I don't remember anyone's names anyway. So my recommendation is take control of the meeting. I'm Eric Hamilton. Along with me, I have Jim, John, like I'm introducing the team. And then what I recommend is I'll say, Dana, would you mind introducing your team? Now we've done this. Now they don't do it all the time. You can't make it prospect too. Sometimes they'll still say, Jim, you want to introduce yourself? But the point of this is, how can we streamline this? Because we want to control the meeting. We want to process. We only have a short amount of time. And remember, if the point is, I want to extract as much information out of you as possible because I'm a shrink. And if I'm able to ask these questions to extract this information, I win because I know a lot about you. Now I can create a use case that's going to help you with whatever pain you have. So that's the important piece about the meeting. And then you get into your flows. You want to understand what they're doing and all that kind of good stuff. But you can read the book for that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I don't know how, because I personally have been learning and having a blast, but somehow we have come to the end of our chat. Okay. So I'm going to go get the book. And after listening to this, I mean, Rebels, like this is the stuff, right? Like when you're setting up, growing, creating go-to-market functions, like this goes beyond sales, what my friend is talking about here. So, I'll say, I'm not a legacy salesperson. I've been, interestingly and organically tapped into sales for a lot of my career.
Yep.
I'm a customer success guru though. Okay. And listening to everything that you're saying is sales. It's success. So I would highly recommend, my sales rebels out there, anybody in marketing, if you want to know how to implement better, meeting hygiene, the prep before you step, walk in with your A team to the Space Jam, song. And if you don't know what Space Jam is, after you buy Eric's book, go watch it. It's good. Anyway, Eric, thank you for hopping on to Rebels of SaaS today. It's been awesome just getting to know you and more about, yourself, Jackie, your family, and everything that you're doing. And so thank you.
Absolutely. And just the last thing, so I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be with you in the Rebels today. Just lastly, the book, it is available on my website. It will be available on Amazon by the end of next week. So it's available for pre-order. It is called The Sales Blueprint, What Winners Do Differently. So a lot of what we talked about is a winner's mindset and strategy. The website is thesalesblueprint4success.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Eric Hamilton Sales Blueprint. So thank you, Dan. I appreciate the opportunity to hang out with, and hopefully I'm officially a rebel of SaaS.
You are. You're one of my favorite rebels, Eric. So congratulations. And everybody, run, don't walk. Follow Eric, get in with him, read his stuff, buy the book, and learn how to win at this, because sales is not easy right now. We need to get better at the hygiene. All right, everyone. Until next time, do it big, do it different. Later, Gators.